Hatred, discrimination, insults and violent attacks. This is what many Muslims are facing, particularly in Europe. I am Gonca and I'm talking with Arnoud van Doorn. He was once a far-right politician in the Netherlands but has since embraced Islam. We talk one-on-one about the rise in the anti-Muslim sentiment and what could be done to fight against them. Only 7 years ago, you were a member of a far-right political party in Holland. Can you very briefly tell me about your journey?
Well, I'm a Muslim now for 7 years, alhamdulillah. I embraced Islam in 1913 after a journey from, it have taken maybe a year and a half. It started basically, I had some doubts about Islam. You know, I was a far-right politician, very critical towards Islam and Islam as a religion. But I didn't understand why there are so many people in the Netherlands, over 1 million, they're all Muslims. They cannot be all bad people or evil people, of course. It didn't make any sense. So I wanted to know more about Islam, not with the intention to convert, but just out of curiosity, because I didn't understand. But when you start to read about Islam, when you start to gain knowledge about Islam, there's, you know, a small spark in your heart, and that will stay there, if you like it or not.
What made you question your point of view?
Well, I heard so many negative stories about Islam and about Muslims, national and international, especially by media and other politicians, because you know the Western mainstream media is very anti-Islamic, it's an anti-Muslim media, and you get more or less brainwashed about all this information. I'm not using it as an excuse because you're always responsible for your own knowledge, but it's happening. So for me it was confusing because I knew Muslims and in my opinion they were very nice people, shop owners, neighbors, so I didn't understand. And I was a little bit afraid to ask them, so I thought, now I have to study for myself a little bit. So I was looking on the internet and starting to read Quran and talking with some Muslim friends. And then during this period, it became clear that Islam was not what I thought that it was. It's not an evil religion or oppressing women or promoting terrorism, you know, all this biased information that you get from the media and politicians in Western Europe. But then I figured out that Islam basically is a very peaceful and tolerant religion, very wise religion, and it has answers to all the questions you have in life. So then it became clear, this was not like overnight, it took me like months and over a year to finally come to the conclusion that Islam was basically the answer to the questions I had as well. So it was a journey, it was a roller coaster, because you know the shaitan is always nearby, whispering in your ear. So sometimes you have doubts and sometimes I was very motivated. And during this period, then alhamdulillah, I embraced Islam a year and a half later.
Was that easy? What were the reactions from the community you belonged to?
Well, the struggle was not easy, and I thought it was a struggle between me and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I thought it was a private thing. Only my mother knew that I was reading about Islam, reading the Quran and trying to get information.
And you were not an ordinary person, you were a politician.
I kept it a little bit secret. At that moment I was already very critical towards the PVV of Geert Wilders. And during this period about learning about Islam, this distance was growing, of course. But still I didn't talk about it with my parents or with my friends or colleagues. So for a lot of people it was a shock when finally it came out. I put it on Twitter that I embraced Islam, and for some people it was like I, you know, went to bed as an anti-Muslim, as an Islamophobe, and wake up as a Muslim, like this. Well, that didn't happen, of course. It was a struggle, it was a journey, but nobody knew. So basically that was a mistake, because now it was a shock for a lot of people. They thought I lost my mind. Or if you become, you know, if you convert to Islam in the Netherlands, people think immediately you're a radical, you're going to Syria, you're supporting IS, you know, Daesh. So yes, I had a lot of explanation to do.
We've been witnessing this for years, but especially for the last couple of years, we've been seeing that anti-Muslim sentiment is on the rise, especially in the European countries. Where is this coming from? And where do you think this is going?
Well, Europe has a history of intolerance, basically, especially France. You know, France has killed like over 1 million Muslims in Algeria, for example, and even the Netherlands, what we have done in our former colonies, and Belgium, in Congo, in Africa. So it's a history of intolerance and oppressing minorities. And with of course, we all know the Holocaust. So it's not like it's not like Europe has a clean conscience if it's about minorities. And so it's not something new. But the last couple of years, the last 5-10 years, it's in the open. And now mainstream politicians, mainstream media are taking over what in the past was only a message that came from far-right parties and far-right groups. So now it's like a common feeling in Europe, which is very disturbing. And it's unfortunately the Netherlands. It's in the top 4 of anti-Islamic countries, together with Belgium, France, Denmark, and Hungary. So it's and you ask where it's coming from. That's a good question. And I think basically the so-called immigrants that came to Europe from Morocco, from Turkey, from other countries in the early 60s, 70s, they were supposed to stay for a short time, work in a factory, don't educate yourself, and then after a couple of years going home. That didn't happen because they stayed, and they got children, they go to school, and they go to college, they go to university, and the Muslim community is educating itself. So now we have a lot of Muslims that have high positions, big companies, and you know, they're lawyers and dentists. So there are a lot of comforts as well all over Europe, and so Islam is growing, is rising, and that was never meant to be.
That was a question I was planning to ask. What about the socio-economic welfare of the Muslims in these European countries? What about the distribution of equal rights, education, and others? How does this affect the situation?
On paper and theory, we have equal rights as minorities, as Muslims. But in reality, that's not the case. You feel there is a lot of discrimination. People are calling it Islamophobia. It's not a fear of Islam. So I don't like the word Islamophobia. It's pure Muslim hate. They don't like Muslims. They don't like the Islam. So in theory, there are equal rights. But for most Muslims, if you want to educate yourself, you want to start your own business, you want to start for example, an Islamic school or other social activities, the government is not helping. On the contrary, they are trying to put it down, to block it, because okay, you can be a Muslim, but please stay in your mosque, or even better, stay in a coffee shop or in a shisha lounge. That's where you belong. So please don't organize yourself. So yes, it's a struggle for especially young Muslims.
So is the solution a better education opportunities?
For example, yes, education is the key word in this. If you want to be sure that we are keeping our own Muslim identity, we have to educate our children, especially the children. So we have to invest especially in good education, Islamic schools, primary schools, high schools, universities, but other social activities as well, like Islamic youth and family care, elderly care, sport activities. Not with the intention to create a parallel society, but just to contribute to the society in a positive way, but with our own Islamic identity. And so, yes, there is a lot of work that we have to do.
What about the political language the European leaders are using? So much hate, so much discrimination. Why is this happening?
Well, they see that Islam is growing. They see that the amount of comforts is also growing rapidly, and they don't know how to stop it. And again, as I said before, it's never meant to be that Islam will be a big part of the European community, the European society. So, and there is another thing, and there are a lot of people, I'm not the only one who's saying that, a lot of people are saying this, that the Western, especially the European economy is based on interest. The financial world is basically in charge, you know, the banks and financial institutions. And the Islamic way of financing is a more appropriate way. It's a more, you know, without interest, without riba. It's a better and a more humane financial system. And I think that the people that are in charge, that have the power in Western Europe, also in the United States, they see this as a threat because they think if the Muslim community is educating themselves and there's an emancipation when this is growing, it might be a threat for their position. So that is probably one of the biggest reasons that they don't want Islam growing in Western Europe.
Now, as a politician who has witnessed this rise in the anti-Muslim sentiment in Europe, what is your call to Muslim countries in the world? Is it time to take action, maybe more serious steps?
Well, yes. Well, the time to take action started about 10, 15 years ago. And unfortunately, most of the Muslim countries, or so-called Islamic countries, they're sleeping. 80% of the Muslim community in Europe is still sleeping. We are still behaving like sheep, waiting for what's going to happen. And we have to take our responsibility. Not only the so-called Islamic countries, but also the Muslim communities in Western Europe. Because we have a lot of potential and we have to organize ourselves. We have to create a professional lobby. We have to educate and we have to work together. And the key word in this is unity. We have to unify because we are weak, there is no leadership, we are divided. And that is why we are an easy target for this Islamophobic politicians and media. So it's a call, yes, it's a call towards Islamic countries, especially to Turkey, because Turkey is taking a leadership role at the moment, alhamdulillah, in protecting the Muslim identity. But even in Turkey, we have to focus, and Turkey is a role model for a lot of Muslims. So especially Turkey should stay.
What are your expectations from Turkey?
Well, as I said, Turkey is taking, at this moment, they are taking their responsibility, finally. And Turkey is an example for a lot of countries like other Muslim countries. It's not only Turkey, because countries like Qatar and Kuwait, they're waking up as well and they are helping as well. But my call to Turkey is first, stay united, even within Turkey. Because President Erdogan has set a line, and this is a good line. I would say, please follow this line, and don't try to rearrange it or to create a disunity. And what we expect from Turkey is, well, basically leadership, and wherever help in organizing Muslims in Western countries in a political way, in a way to create a professional lobby, education, schools, things like that.
But it's not only in Turkey's power. Turkey needs support from other countries.
Exactly. I know, and it's not like we have to back down, you know, and be quiet and wait for Turkey to act. Of course not. We have our own responsibility, and we are organizing activities in Western Europe, but we have to work together.
What about boycott? We've discussed this boycott against especially French products last week. Would it be effective?
Absolutely. If politicians in Western Europe are very vulnerable if it comes to economy, especially now with this COVID going on all over Europe, all over the world. So economy is vulnerable. So if we want to change things, the diplomatic way is not very effective, because we've tried it for years and Islamophobia is only growing. So I think, for example, the boycott of France, I think that is a very strong message. But it can only be successful if you work together with all the other Islamic countries, and not only for a few days or a few weeks, but if you want to get a real effect, you have to put a real boycott and continue for at least 6 months or a year.
Now you're in Turkey to attend some meetings. What are you hoping to achieve?
Well, we are in Turkey we are invited by the Bilal Foundation. They're doing a great job in creating this unity. This is very important. And Turkey has, especially the last couple of years, a history and experience in how to create unity and to set up a new political system that is preventing the Islamic identity. So we can learn from Turkey. But also, if we can work together in setting up a professional media, independent Islamic media, because now we are depending on mainstream Western media, which is portraying Islam and Muslims always in a negative way. So that is very important. And especially in the way of creating a lobby and establishing Islamic schools and boarding schools and to invest in education. Because without the right education, Islam in the Netherlands, in Western Europe, it will vanish within 20 or 30 years if we continue the way we are doing now.
Can we talk specifically about Netherlands? There was a big reaction from Turkey last week against, not only last week, but he's a very well-known figure now in Turkey. And please correct me, my pronunciation if I'm wrong, Geert Wilders. What is the case there?
Well, Geert Wilders he's just one of the. It's not an individual or one political party, the PVV, the Party for Freedom in the Netherlands, because they're working with other Islamophobic groups and lobby groups and political parties all over Europe, like in France and in Hungary and other countries. So it's behind the scenes they are working together. It's a program, it's an agenda, and this is well. To be honest, Geert Wilders basically he achieved his goal because now the mainstream politicians and media are basically taking over his points. Only they are wearing nice clothes and they speak in diplomatic words and with a smile. But still the message is the same. It's even worse, it's even more dangerous because they are making laws. Geert Wilders is an opposition party. But now it's become like a general feeling, a general agenda. So this is very disturbing.
Thanks a lot for answering our questions.
You're welcome.